Reactions trail appeal court ruling on PDP as party remains fragmented. Dangote refinery hikes petrol price again as price per litre hovers over 1,300 naira. Zamfara Governor Dauda Lawal, deputy, announced defection to the All Progressive Congress APC. And on the international scene, Kenyan authorities evacuate tourists as flood death toll rises. Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us. We begin in Abuja as the appeal court sitting in Abuja has upheld the suspension of several top officials of the People's Democratic Party PDP. Those affected include former National Secretary of the PDP, Samuel Anyanwu, the legal advisor, Kamaluddin Ajibade, the deputy legal advisor, Okechukwu Osua, and the National Organizing Secretary, Umar Bature. The appellate court also affirmed an earlier ruling of the Federal High Court delivered by Justice James Omotosho. The judgment upheld the decision of the PDP's National Working Committee to suspend the officials on November 1st, 2025. Reacting to the judgment, factional chairman Tanimu Turaki commended the justices for their review of the case, but argues that the courts should not interfere in the internal affairs of political parties. Meanwhile, factional National Secretary Samuel Anyanwu said the ruling should not create divisions, urging party members to unite and work together for the future of the PDP.
For PDP, I want to most sincerely thank the justices of the Court of Appeal for their hard work and industry. Not only in the marathon manner, they had the appeals, but even the way they delivered judgment this morning up to this evening. We have listened to the judgments of the Court of Appeal, and we still maintain our position that our courts have no business meddling into matters that are purely political. These are matters that should be left to the internal affairs and internal resolution of the political parties. We have asked our lawyers to collect the certified true copies of the judgments that have just been delivered by the court. The court had promised that the judgments should be ready by tomorrow. So as soon as the judgments are received by our lawyers, they will advise us on what further necessary steps to take, if any, on the basis of the said judgment.
This is victory for PDP. Victory for every member of PDP in Nigeria and across Nigeria. It's a victory for everyone. Justice has been done. I want to appreciate the court for being very critical in this judgment. And it's a wake-up call for political parties to be able to ensure that their affairs of the party is being guided by the Constitution and other guidelines and instant laws. For us, we represent nobody because we are all PDP. And it's an opportunity to also call on every member of PDP to come back home. Let us move ahead. It's an opportunity for us again.
Well, in a related development, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike, has urged the leadership of the People's Democratic Party not to challenge the recent Court of Appeal ruling on the party's national convention at the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Speaking in Abuja, Wike described the judgment as a wake-up call for members of the PDP to reflect and work towards resolving the party's internal crisis. He warned that taking the matter to the apex court could further prolong divisions within the opposition party.
Mind you, the primaries will start from April. Now, this is March. Leave your ego. Leave your personal interest. Come back. Let's sit down. Now we're here. Can we see how we can forge ahead? That's an opportunity. But if you say you don't, of course, lawyers will tell you, no, let's go to Supreme Court. Mind you, the primaries will be from April to May. Now look at it. By the time you go to Supreme Court, you're merely doing harm, causing harm for your party, which you say you love and which will not help us. For me, it's an opportunity. Let everybody come back. Let's sit down. So well, you have tried, but the law has spoken. Let us stop this, please, and then see how the party will forge ahead. That's my own. I think that is an opportunity for PDP to look inwards. It's okay. We have fought. Now it's time to say, okay, enough is enough. Let's come back. Whatever we can do to put our hands together. Then we'll, but if you continue with the fight, or let's go to Supreme Court at this, it is not going to go well for the party.
Well, the PDP leadership crisis continues to take its toll with yet another legal turn after the Court of Appeal ruled that the Independent National Electoral Commission must not recognize the parallel convention held in Ibadan. The judgment comes amid the deepening rift within the People's Democratic Party, where rival factions continue to battle for control of the party. The decision reinforces the position of the lower court and keeps the leadership dispute within the People's Democratic Party unresolved. For months, the PDP leadership crisis has split the party into rival camps, two factions, one loyal to Kabiru Tanimu Turaki and the other to Abdurrahman Muhammad, held separate conventions with each side claiming to be the legitimate leadership of the party. Now the internal battle has dragged the party through a series of court cases and political confrontations. Observers say the dispute is weakening the main opposition party at a time when political groups are already positioning ahead of the 2027 general elections.
In that judgment, let me say, no winner, no vanquish. It's a fight between the two families. And I expect the two families, as a family, they must be quarrel. Well, let two of them, the two factions, come to a table, sit down and agree. Turaki, Wike, they are all Nigerians. Whatever decision the Court of Appeal has given, they should be able to embrace the spirit of sportsmanship.
I believe PDP will give the APC a run for their money. And honestly, I just hope PDP will put themselves in order and then, become an opposition going forward in 2027. I just hope they need to put their act together as a political party.
But I don't even see PDP coming up for 2027 election. I don't even see it because with the crisis happening within the PDP, the house is not in place. So I don't see them even having anybody to run for the presidential election in 2027.
Are you talking about the ADC? That is the opposition? Are they prepared? By my submission, they are not.
For historical reasons, I don't think our votes will count, yet the optimist in me is trying to just stay optimistic and hope that it will count. Nonetheless, because of the faction here and there, I think that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So it's better they put that very fast together so that we can have a very seamless election, which is free and fair, and then having every vote count. Because at this point in every Nigerian's life, it's very critical. We want to know what's next. Everybody is apprehensive. We're looking at, what's the hope? What's the hope?
I feel the present president will still win the next election. So I just want to pass one message to the top people that the next election they should really allow the youth to come out to vote, and our vote should count. Because if you go about, before you see somebody like working legit jobs is very hard. Even getting a job self is hard. You must know somebody before you can get a job. So you don't expect me to go out there and cast my vote knowing fully well that my vote is not going to count and all that. So I I feel next year election, they already know who is their president. So me, I don't have anything to say. I just want us to live in peace and love each other, one Nigerian.
Staying with politics to Zamfara State, where Governor Dauda Lawal has officially defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress, APC. The state government announced the development after extensive consultations with the political leadership, elders and stakeholders across Zamfara State. According to the statement, the decision was taken in the overriding interests of stability, progress and sustainable development of Zamfara State. Governor Dauda Lawal says the prolonged internal crisis and leadership disagreements within the PDP at both national and state levels influenced his decision to seek a new political platform. The governor added that aligning with the APC would promote stronger cooperation with the federal government, particularly in tackling security challenges and accelerating development in Zamfara State. Let's bring in chieftain of the PDP, Daboikiabo Wamate, to discuss the recent developments at the appeal court and what that means for the PDP going forward. He's joined us virtually from his residence here in Abuja. Comrade, it's good to see you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the News Hour.
Thank you for having me once again.
Right.
Thank you.
Let's start this way. Is this ruling good news or bad news for the PDP from your perspective?
Well, I'm happy with it. But the most important thing is that a pronouncement has been made, a judgment has been given that has reduced to some extent the ambiguity surrounding the leadership of the party. And we hope that with the statement of our leaders and some of the action we saw today in court, they'll be able to come up with a political solution to this political crisis we are facing within our political party, the PDP.
Now, it's very clear that both parties want to continue this war either in the courts or outside of the courts. What do you make of the position of the Tanimu Turaki-led National Working Committee that effectively has been ousted based on this appeal court judgment, with their appeal going to the Supreme Court now, and apparently the Abdurrahman Mohammed-led National Working Committee going ahead with their plans for the March convention? How do you see this ending exactly? Because it doesn't look like any of the groups is willing to concede grounds.
No, I think from the statement of the FCT minister, who is the leader of the Abdurrahman faction, that the door is open. This judgment should bring everybody to come together, sit down and drop their ego. And that is what people like us have been saying, even on their platform on several occasions, that ego should be dropped. We wouldn't have gotten to this point if we are able to arrest that ego issue on time, nip it in the bud. But as it is today, he has come up to also mention it, which I believe is a welcome development. And also, when Turaki was talking, if you look at, aside of the statement released by the MPS, he was saying that the judgment, the CTC will be out tomorrow, and the lawyers will study it and advise. So we are hoping that both leaders and both groups should come and sit down. What we read right now is a political is that what are we going to get if we get to the Supreme Court? It will be the parties suffering more at the expense of members and Nigerians. So we don't want the issue to get to the Supreme Court. We want our political leaders to sit down. Today, if you see at the appeal court, Anyanwu and Senator Anyanwu and Traki were arguing themselves. They should bring that to the table and let's resolve this issue. Just like the FCT minister said, and we address this issue once and for all and live up to the expectation of Nigerians that are looking up to PDP to come on board back. But going to the Supreme Court, to me, is not a way forward for the crisis we are facing.
Now, talk to me about the time that clearly PDP is running out of, because you mentioned the FCT minister and he echoed that same concern about the primaries around the corner, less than a month and 2 weeks away. In April to May, the primaries are billed to take place according to INEC guidelines. Some would say the worst case scenario, PDP is out of the running effectively as far as 2027 is concerned. Do you think your party will make it to the ballot in time for next year's election?
Yes, I think we'll make it to the ballot, but it also depends on the attitude of our leaders, one. And also we have not just the primary starting on the 26th of April to terminate at the window 26th of April to 30th of May. But you know, with the new Electoral Act section 77, subsection 7 and 6 and 7, you have to submit a digital register of your members to INEC, 21 days to the primaries. So we have to meet that criteria. And that is why people like us are appealing to our leaders to see how they can share their swords and for the party to meet up with all its obligation as regards the new Electoral Act. So we can have candidates on the ballot come 2027, because that is the only way that it will show that, yes, we have the interests of Nigerians as a political party. Otherwise, if we try to prove who is right and who is wrong at this point, with the time frame we have, we will not achieve anything and will not be able to meet the expectation of Nigeria, which will not tell well about our party as the People's Party. So that is it.
Yeah, I mean, since 2023, since the loss of 2023 in the general elections, the PDP has been losing some of its key players. You've lost the former vice president, a handful of governors, a handful of senators and House of Representative members. Just earlier in the day, the governor of Zamfara State announced his departure from the PDP to join forces with the APC. It's very clear that some of the high players think PDP is a sinking ship and they have to jump off that ship to save their political career. What message do you think that sends to the rank and file, to supporters of your party who are also concerned about the viability of PDP as a political platform?
We have gone this low in terms of numbers of governors and National Assembly members and State Assembly members. It is quite discouraging. Many of us are not happy about this development, and squarely we blame our leaders. None of them can exempt themselves. None of our leaders. They are responsible, starting from the governors before they declined to this number to 2. Some of them that have left were part of this problem and they abandoned the party. If you have an issue in your family, won't you think of how to resolve it rather than running away? Won't you think how to make sacrifice? But they don't want to make sacrifice. That is the kind of society, political environment we have today. Nobody is ready to make sacrifice in the interest of the party, in the interest of the citizenry of this country, and in the interest of this nation. Otherwise, most especially to the second-term governors, what is the essence of the campaign? Won't you stay and see how you can resolve the crisis in the party, just like some others are doing? So it's so painful. The party that has given them this platform, national recognition, and they are abandoning it. And that's why I want to commend the Section 77 of the Electoral Act. For those of them that move like prostitutes, I thought you lose primaries, you jump to the next party to say I can collect this without principle. But with that section, most of them will not be able to, flex, have that political opportunity to have political prostitution going from one party to another, because if your name is not on the digital register submitted to INEC, as at the time it was submitted, you cannot be voted or you cannot vote or be voted for. So we are all disappointed, to be frank. Members of the party are disappointed, Nigerians are disappointed, and that's why we are calling upon our leaders, just like the SDT inside, drop your ego, drop your pride, drop your ambition. It is time to make sacrifice to prove to us genuinely that you love PDP. That is it.
All right. It is safe to say that the drama in the PDP is a gift that keeps on giving. Comrade Daboikiabo Amate, thank you very much as always for the analysis. Appreciate you very much for joining us on the News Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's turn our attention now to developments in Rivers State, where the State House of Assembly has rejected 4 commissioner nominees submitted by Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The nominees were screened during a session at the Assembly in Port Harcourt on Monday. However, the Assembly rejected the nominations of Datonye Alasia, Charity Demoa, Tamuno Williams, and Otonye TKD Meche. The development marks another key moment in the ongoing political developments within the Rivers State executive and legislative arms. The Labour Party State Chairman Forum has urged the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to disregard a memo allegedly issued by the party's caretaker committee, which sought to hold a fresh Congress for March 26. The forum, composed of state chairmen elected in December of 2025, argues that the memo violates both the Labour Party constitution and Nigerian law. In a statement on Monday, the National Publicity Secretary, Obiora Ifo, reiterated the caretaker committee led by Senator Ninadi Usman has no authority to act on behalf of the party. The state chairman called on INEC to sanction Usman and her group and proposed that the commission designate an officer to manage the party's affairs until proper processes are followed. The first National Executive Committee meeting of the Social Democratic Party in 2026 has ratified the expulsion of former National Chairman Shehu Musa Gabam and several members of the party's National Working Committee. The NEC meeting, witnessed by officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, also approved the appointment of Sadiq Abubakar Gombe as the substantive national chairman of the SDP. Trust TV's Safiu Suleiman has more in this report.
The Social Democratic Party is one of Nigeria's opposition parties seeking to strengthen its internal structure ahead of the next election cycle. The party faced internal tensions last year after allegations of financial impropriety were raised against its former national chairman Shehu Musa Gabam and national youth leader Uchechukwu Ogbonna. Following investigations and disciplinary proceedings, the party expelled the affected officials and moved to reorganize its leadership structure. Dr. Sadiq Abubakar Gombe was earlier appointed in acting capacity to stabilize the party during the crisis.
In accordance with the provisions of our Constitution and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is in order that when the chairman takes a seat, he needs to be ratified by NEC. In view of this, we are calling on motion for the ratification and approval of NEC for the office of the national chairman of our great party.
At the NEC meeting, members formally ratified the earlier disciplinary actions and leadership changes. With the chairmanship issue settled, the committee also approved zoning the party's presidential ticket to the southern region.
I, Honorable Idoko Itodo, the chairman of Social Democratic Party, Benue State, do hereby second the motion that NEC should approve, rectify disciplinary measures comprising suspension and expulsion of Alhaji Shehu Musa Gabam, Uchechukwu Ogbonna, and all other persons suspended or expelled from the party within the period of 25th March 2002 to 8th March 2026.
National Chairman of the party, Dr. Sadiq Abubakar Gombe, says the SDP remains open to alliances with other opposition parties ahead of the 2027 elections. He also called on the Independent National Electoral Commission and the National Assembly to provide an atmosphere that supports transparent and credible polls.
We thank you most sincerely for this great task and honor of reposing your trust in us by saddling us with this great responsibility of leading the Social Democratic Party. And I want to assure you, we are not going to take anything for granted. We are going to lead, inshallah, with all sense of responsibility.
Among those present at the meeting were state chairmen of the party across the 36 states, the party's 2023 presidential candidate Adewale Adebayo, INEC officials and other party stakeholders. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Away from politics, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has raised the gantry price of petrol to 1,175 naira per litre. The new price represents the third increase within 1 week, up from 995 naira per litre announced just days earlier. The refinery also revised the price of diesel to 1,620 naira per litre. Industry checks show the updated rates have already been reflected across petroleum depot pricing platforms, signaling a new benchmark for downstream marketers. Analysts warn that the development could push retail pump prices above 1,200 naira per litre in several states, further increasing transportation costs and the prices of goods and services. While the management of the Dangote refinery says Nigeria will continue to enjoy steady domestic fuel supply despite rising global oil prices triggered by tensions in the Middle East. The managing director of the refinery, David Bird, made this known during a press briefing and with journalists at the headquarters of the refinery in Lagos. The report.
Speaking at the briefing, David Bird explained that the recent increase in petrol prices across filling stations in Nigeria is largely driven by developments in the global oil market. According to him, crude oil prices have risen sharply from about $60 per barrel to about $118 per barrel, largely due to ongoing crisis in the Middle East. He added that the situation has also significantly affected shipping costs, with daily tanker freighting rates for crude deliveries to the refinery rising from about $800,000 to roughly $3.5 million.
Domestic refining industry is not immune to that. However, the benefit of having a domestic refining industry is supply security. What would be worse than $120 oil is no oil. And there are countries right now, developed and developing, without a domestic refining industry that are already rationing. They are already seeing panic buying. And heaven knows what will happen over the next 10 days, 2 weeks, as some of those countries with low supply security stocks start to endure significant shortages, because where are the molecules going to come from? This is both crude and refined products. Incredible disruption where the Middle East was a significant supplier of crude and refined products to the world, and that has now been curtailed. So where are those refined products going to come from? And you see a lot of self-interest in the way every country behaves. China has a huge refining industry, but predominantly dependent on Middle Eastern grades. And because now they're worried about their supply of crude, they have banned any exports. They have ensured that their domestic refining industry prioritizes the local market. So that is one thing that has fundamentally now changed with Nigeria. What is worse than $120 oil is no oil. And right now, Dangote Refinery, provided we continue to get access to Nigerian grades with the support of Nigerian government and NNPC, albeit at internationally benchmarked prices, we will continue to process that oil and serve the domestic market with priority. And that is happening as we speak. There is uninterrupted supply to the Nigerian economy for all of its refined fuels requirements.
Despite the global surge in crude oil prices, the refinery's management assured Nigerians that domestic refinery capacity would help guarantee fuel availability across the country.
The domestic refining industry, supported by the government with the domestic crude production, Dangote Refinery will continue to meet all of Nigeria's refined fuels requirements. However, we are exposed to the global commodity pricing. So pricing is a discussion for government as a crude producer. But as an independent domestic refining industry, we will continue to ensure our operational continuity, and we will prioritize domestic supply and continue to ensure that Nigeria enjoys what it has enjoyed only for the last 18 months, 2 years, and that is fuel abundance and not fuel scarcity.
The management of Dangote Refinery further emphasized that ensuring a steady and reliable fuel supply for Nigerians remains its top priority despite fluctuations in global oil supply and rising shipping costs.
Well, fuel price hikes are pushing up transportation fares across Nigeria. Commuters in Lagos, Maiduguri of Borno State, Kaduna and Makurdi in Benue State say the rising pump price of petrol is shrinking the number of vehicles on the road and stretching household budgets. The report.
Transport costs are climbing in many parts of the country as the price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, continues to rise. In Lagos, commuters say fuel scarcity has reduced the number of vehicles operating on major routes. Many passengers now spend longer at bus stops trying to get a ride. One resident told Trust TV the situation became clear after church on Sunday when several drivers said they could not get petrol. With fewer vehicles available, transport operators now set higher fares. Passengers say they have little choice but to pay. For salary earners, the change is already hitting daily spending. One commuter said their transport cost has jumped from about 3,000 to nearly 4,000 per day.
It's going to affect, especially for someone like me as a salary earner. My daily budget for transportation is 3,000 naira. So now it has increased to 4,000 naira. So definitely, it has. So because I didn't plan for it, so it has invariably affected and reduced my purchasing power.
Just for instance, you budgeting, like you salary earner, collecting like 70,000, you're budgeting 20,000 like for your transport going and coming, but now the increment is now like high now. Just like yesterday, I was passing through MRS and I was seeing the diesel price going to 1,400 and the petrol 1,001. Like, it's affecting us.
In Maiduguri, residents say the pump price of petrol has also risen sharply. Petrol that sold for about 990 naira per litre a few days ago now goes for around 1,110 naira per litre at some filling stations. Residents say the increase is placing pressure on families and small businesses. Many are calling on government to step in and bring prices down.
I bought fuel this morning 5,000 naira and it is not up to 5 litres, which means it is above 1,000 naira per litre. The government is supposed to intervene. We cannot increase transport fare because passengers will complain and it's affecting us. Last week we bought fuel at 999 naira, but now it is 1,110 naira and we don't know the reason for the increase. Order verse 3. I wonder why the increment. We want the government to reduce the price to 7 naira. We will be happy.
Kaduna residents are facing a similar situation. Commuters say higher petrol prices have forced transport operators to raise fares, pushing up daily travel costs for workers and students.
Today, I bought a litre for 1,103 naira. On Saturday, it was 1,060 naira. The money I spent buying some litres was enough to fill my tank.
It affects our business in the sense that ideally, where they normally carry our cow and goat, like for instance, for like 5,000 naira, the increase now, there will be an increase up to like 8,000 to 9,000 naira due to the increase of fuel. So we are not finding it easy because of the increase of fuel.
I bought a liter at 1,100 naira, but the passengers couldn't pay the fare. They insisted on paying the old price.
In Makurdi, the Benue State capital, petrol prices have also jumped. The product, which sold for about 820 naira per litre recently, now goes for around 1,101 per litre in many filling stations. Fuel dealers blame the rise on the ongoing tensions in the Middle East, which they say are affecting the supply and cost of petroleum products. Residents say the impact is already visible in transport fares, food prices, and other daily expenses.
We dey buy for 96. Some place we dey buy 950 naira. Now it's 1,200 and 1,000. Some place station you go buy 1,001, some 1,150. So the thing is very hard for us.
If there is any way that we reduce the price of fuel, it will help us a lot. Because if you look at the country, fuel is the major thing that is affecting every other business and transportation. So if fuel price is reduced, every other thing will be reduced.
Now, this benefit for this fuel issue now, we don't know how we take start and see our business now, they move like before. So I beg, let them check for us for this fuel issue now. I beg, let them help us.
Commuters warn that if petrol prices continue to rise, transport costs will keep climbing, adding more pressure on already strained household budgets.
Well, this is the news on Trust TV. Still to come. Students and teachers narrowly escape death as a 4-story school building in Lagos collapses. We'll be back with details after the break. Welcome back to the news. Let's take another look at our top stories. Reactions trails appeal court's ruling in PDP case as party remains fragmented. Dangote Refinery hikes petrol price, assures Nigerians of steady supply. Now, as part of activities to mark this year's International Women's Day, female staff members of Media Trust Group have extended a gesture of compassion to vulnerable children through a special outreach to Halal Children's Home in Abuja. The visit was aimed at spreading love, offering support, and reminding the children that they are not forgotten. Lucas Yakubu tells us more.
It was a day filled with smiles, laughter, and touching moments as the women of Media Trust Group visited Halal Children's Home in Life Camp, Abuja, to celebrate International Women's Day with the children. The team arrived with a variety of gifts and essential items aimed at supporting the welfare and well-being of the children at the home. Speaking during the visit, the Executive Director, Corporate Services at Media Trust Group, Hadiza Ibrahim Bala, said the outreach reflects true spirit of womanhood, which embodies compassion, care, and service to humanity.
Being here today it's kind of, it brings back a lot of, because I know how it feels to be orphans, because I've taken care of 3 orphans myself. So I really, really appreciate what you guys do. And I'm also, it's in the spirit of Ramadan, and also, every year you tell yourself, how can I be a better version of myself? And for me, coming here, what I want to take as part of life going forward is to do more to some of these orphanages that we have.
Other members of the group also emphasized the importance of supporting vulnerable members of society and using the occasion of International Women's Day to give back to the community.
It's a great pleasure to be here, and what we've heard so far, we are really actually motivated to do more than we have done today. We really thank you for the work you are doing.
Well done for the work you are doing. It's such not an easy work, because I know you have so many other things you are doing. In creating time for this, It's actually love and sacrifice that will make people to do something like this. So keep up the good work.
Although many of the children were in school at the time of the visit, those present warmly welcomed the guests and expressed appreciation for the kindness shown to them. Representatives of Halal Children's Home say the facility remains committed to providing a safe and supportive environment for children in its care. They commended the women of Media Trust Group for the thoughtful gesture, noting that such support goes a long way in improving the welfare of the children.
Basically, what we just do is that we have a model. This is the model for how an orphanage should be run. And what happens is that we get sisters from all over the 6 states of Nigeria saying, okay, we want to establish something like this, and because all we have to check is that we have the same values, and our values are hope, appreciation, love, accountability, and leadership. We appreciate you for coming to visit us. It's not many people that actually come to appreciate us, the women.
I'm very happy that we have beautiful women. Happy Women's Day. Everybody's here, and we are happy that you're here. And I'm sure if the children peep through their classes and they see you people here, the one thing that is always in their hearts is the joy that special people like this remember that people like them are here.
Following the outreach, the women of Media Trust Group also held an interactive session where they discussed the significance of International Women's Day and reflected on this year's theme, Give to Gain, which encourages individuals and organizations to support and uplift others as a pathway to collective progress. The visit forms part of activities lined up by the group to mark the global celebration, which recognizes the achievements, resilience, and contributions of women in society. For the organizers, the outreach serves as a reminder that empowering communities and uplifting vulnerable groups remains a shared responsibility. Dorcas Yakubu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, panic erupted on Monday morning in Abuja after a fire broke out at the office of the head of civil service. A section of the building was engulfed in flames, forcing civil servants to flee the premises as firefighters moved quickly to contain the blaze. Officials of the Federal Fire Service were deployed to the scene and battled the inferno to prevent it from spreading to other parts of the office complex. In a statement, the agency spokesperson Abraham Olobi assured workers and the public that there was no cause for alarm, noting that the situation had been brought under control. He added that the cause of the fire would be investigated and communicated in due course. A coalition of concerned Nigerian citizens has returned to the headquarters of the Nigeria Revenue Service in Abuja to protest what it described as irregularities in the appointment of executive directors. The group alleges that the appointments violate provisions of the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Act of 2025, which mandates that the 6 executive directors represent the geopolitical zones on rotational basis among states in alphabetical order. According to the coalition, 5 of the 6 appointments did not follow this requirement. The protesters argue that the alleged breach undermines due process and fairness in public appointments, warning that it could threaten national unity and erode public confidence in government institutions.
According to the law, the appointment should follow a rotational arrangement among states in each geopolitical zone in alphabetical order. However, what we currently see contradicts this provision. That is the reason why all of us from the 6 geopolitical zones, the last geopolitical zone is in solidarity with the other 5, so that these breaches should be corrected. Yes. The breaches are: Benue State should represent the North Central on the executive board, not Niger State that someone from there is currently occupying the position illegally. Yes. Yes. Is that right? Yes. That's not right. Yes. So, Jigawa State should represent the Northwest. Not Kano. Not Kano. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Abia State should represent Southeast, not Imo. Yes. Ekiti State should represent Southwest, not Lagos. Yes. You are right, sir. Furthermore, Section 17(1) of the Part 4 of the NRS Act 2025 as contained in the certified true copy states that these appointments must be made to represent each geopolitical zone. What is obtainable now is irregularity. It is not done that way. Some states are being shortchanged, which is thoroughly bad. That is why we are out on the street, and we shall continue here till our demands are met.
In other news, teachers and students narrowly escaped death after a 4-story school building collapsed in the Ogba area of Lagos State. The structure located in the Aduda 2 Street in Aguda area reportedly caved in around noon on Monday, just minutes after students and staff were evacuated from the premises. Witnesses say the building collapsed less than 3 minutes after the evacuation, preventing what could have been a major tragedy. The incident adds to the growing concerns over recurring building collapses in Lagos, which have been recorded in recent years. Authorities say the exact cause of the collapse is yet to be determined, while investigations are expected to commence to establish the circumstances surrounding the incident. Now, talking business, the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, is considering sourcing crude oil from the international market to supply the Dangote Petroleum Refinery in a move aimed at sustaining domestic refining operations. Industry sources say the intervention is intended to stabilize crude supply to the Lekki-based refinery amid growing pressure in the fuel market. However, officials warn the move may not immediately reduce the cost of petrol as Nigerians continue to grapple with rising petroleum prices. Recent adjustments have pushed gantry prices close higher than 1,000 naira per litre, with pump prices in some locations exceeding 1,200 naira. On the international scene, authorities in Kenya have evacuated tourists and staff from the Masai Mara National Reserve following severe flooding across the country. At least 42 people have died, with most fatalities reported in the capital, Nairobi, where victims drowned or were electrocuted, according to the police. The police warned that the death toll may rise as search and rescue operations continue, while the heavy rains, which began on Friday, submerged vehicles and forced residents to wade through hip-high waters. Kenya's long rain season, which started in late February, has previously caused deadly floods, landslides, and widespread displacement. Authorities continue to monitor the situation and assist affected communities. Now, time to bring you up to date with the latest in sports. Here's Kabir Lawal.
The Director General of the National Sports Commission, NSC, Bukola Olapade, has commended the Nigerian Boxing Federation, NBF, for successfully organizing the National Boxing Week and Commonwealth Games Open Trials in Lagos, describing the event as a major step towards strengthening Nigerians' chances at the forthcoming Commonwealth Games. Olapade made the remarks while speaking with journalists at the Bayer Ayote Boxing Complex National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos, where the week-long boxing spectacle attracted a large number of athletes, officials, and stakeholders from across country and the diaspora. The maiden National Boxing Week, held from March 1st to 6th, featured a series of activities including seminars, coaches and referees, athlete orientation programs, and the highly competitive open trials aimed at selecting Nigeria's representative for the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. More than 120 boxers, including male and female fighters, as well as Nigerian athletes based abroad, participated in the trial across 10 weight categories, competing for the coveted opportunity to represent Team Nigeria at the Games. Commended the Nigerian Boxing Federation for organizing a transparent and highly competitive selection process, Olapade noted that the trials were conducted without controversies that have often characterized combat sports competitions. Olapade also commended the Nigerian Boxing Federation for putting up a trial that has been devoid of acrimony. The National Sports Commission boss highlighted the impressive participation of athletes from Nigerian diaspora, describing it as a reflection of Commission's broader strategy to integrate foreign-based Nigerian athletes into the country's sports development frameworks. That's Sport News. I am Kabir Lawat.
Well, still in sports, the Kaduna State government says it has secured full ownership, custody and control of the Ahmadu Bello Stadium, describing the development as a major milestone in the state's sports development drive. The Commissioner for Sports Development in Kaduna State, Benjamin Kumai Gugong, made the announcement during a press briefing in Kaduna.
Professor Gugong explained that the previous administration had only secured custody and control of the stadium, but the current agreement now grants the state full ownership of the facility. According to him, the Memorandum of Understanding transferring ownership was signed on February 26, 2026 by Kaduna State Governor Ubasani and the Chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. Gugong also expressed appreciation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for creating an enabling environment for the transfer, noting that the move aligns with the federal government's renewed hope agenda.
Beyond expansion, this project represents a total transformation into a fully integrated sport city, incorporated upgraded sporting facilities, modern infrastructure and commercial components that will ensure sustainability and revenue generation.
Speaking to journalists at the project site, the consultant for Kaima Construction Water Pressure assured that the project would be delivered before the end of 2025, with construction work currently above 30% completion.
50%. The VIP stand, as you can see, we are on the substructure, and in end of this month we will start with the superstructure. Yes. And all in all, my experience is saying that until December this project will be finished and ready for handing over to the public, of course first to the government and then to the public. So please, any other question?
I think that, according to the Commissioner, the project approved in the 2025 budget will be executed in phases. The first phase will focus on upgrading the main bowl, constructing 2 training pitches, a 48-room hostel, and called for basketball, handball, beach football, and beach volleyball.
I have people around me working closely with the consultants for this project, and they are always submitting their reports, which show that everything is in order. And I think what I'm seeing is satisfactory, bearing in mind the tenure of the contract.
When completed, the project will expand the stadium's seating capacity from 16,000 to 32,000, making Ahmadu Bello Stadium the second largest stadium in Nigeria.
And that's a wrap on the News Hour tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Do well to stay in touch by following us across our social media platforms. You can also visit our website, trusttv.com, for the latest news, programs and documentaries. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us and good night.